Hey guys, it's Don in the flesh, talking to you guys about episodes 17 and 18 of TMNT. This is a new format for reviews, but let me know how you felt about it and if you'd prefer that I go back to the old format of me just speaking and you looking at photos. It's all about what you want. I live to serve. Starting off with 17, TCRI. I seriously loved this episode when I first watched it. I was like, it's funny, the characters, awesome, the feels. Come on, Leatherhead going back to Dimension X. You were either crying all over it, I got it, you went back, or you were just being all like, that did not just happen. Or maybe in the middle. There's always a middle. Either way, it was shocking. No one saw that coming. I definitely didn't. So basically, if you asked me right after the episode, I would have said, this episode is friggin' amazing. But I watched it a few more times and I was like, oh, damn it. Plot holes. 'Cause, we totally needed that. So yeah, starting off with the first one. It was the Turtles completely forgetting about the power cell the moment they stepped into the TCRI building. No one thought, hey, what if we just took out the power cell or stole it somehow? We could render the frickin' portal useless. Whee! But no one thought of that. The shift from the power cell to the portal, actually, it happened way before the Turtles stormed Krang HQ. It happened when the Turtles talked to Leatherhead about what they should do. He said, with the power cell, the Krang can basically set their plan in motion. So, okay, that was on purpose. Why? My conclusion was not so we could be introduced to the General, who I'll admit, he is freaking huge, he is freaking epic. The Turtles just could not put him down, take him down, I mean. He was invincible. And the only guy that could actually hurt him, kind of, sort of, was Leatherhead. And who was it who took him back to Dimension X and therefore rendered his introduction kind of mute? Leatherhead. So the whole point was for Leatherhead to go back to Dimension X. So again, why? Why would the writers want to do that? Because there I'm stumped. I have no clue. All I can say is that there has to be a friggin' epically good reason why Leatherhead has to go back. We will see him again, and when we do, he better be bigger and badder, faster, stronger, and just generally all-round awesomer, so that we can be reminded of how wonderful he is. I bet the Turtles now feel terrible for labeling him as a freaking monster back in episode 12. Except for Mikey. I'll let him be all like, I told you so. But the rest of them better feel awful about judging him like that. Because he saved their butts. And made a huge sacrifice. Okay, moving on to the second plot hole that I noticed. Was the Turtles coming up with this conclusion that the Krang have to terraform the Earth because they can't breathe our air. What? In general, they've been surviving here pretty darn well. I don't understand why they need to change anything about this planet, because that would just, in my eyes, that's a waste of resources. If they want to destabilize the human population, that makes sense. At the moment, they're in hiding. If they showed themselves, imagine the army would just come all out and be shooting all the aliens, and no one would trust guys in suits anymore. If the Turtles just made the case that the Krang, in order to rule Earth, they have to take down the human population, and by taking down the human population, they are trying to mutate stuff and change the conditions of the planet so we can't survive here. That makes sense. That makes so much sense. But saying that the Krang can't survive here when they've been doing so for months, I do not buy that at all. So, something that I remembered as I watched the episode was that TCRI used to employ Baxter Stockman. If you don't know what I'm talking about, rewatch the episode titled, I think his name is Baxter Stockman, and yeah, you'll understand. I cannot envision Stockman actually helping the Krang now. Now that they're the whole reason behind TCRI, and knowing also that Stockman wants his revenge on TCRI. So my thinking is that if the Shredder decides to be buddy buds with the Krang because they have a common enemy, then Stockman will be doing everything he can to bring the Krang down, to basically sabotage the Krang. But on the other hand, the Shredder, for some unknown reason to me, could decide to be enemies with the Krang, and therefore Stockman gets what he wants. I'm going to give a bit of credit to this idea to Santia1. She was the one who came up with the idea of the Shredder trying to sabotage the Krang if they decided to partner up. And vice versa also, the Krang not trusting the Foot and trying to sabotage them. If this ends up happening, I'll also give credit to you, Santia1. Moving on to something else I noticed about this episode, which was at the very beginning. It was basically the very same night that episode 16 ended. And that was a little bit of a shock to me. I was like recalibrating. But when I got used to it, I actually really liked it because that helps with the continuity of the show. If they put in a considerable amount of time, I, as a reviewer, would definitely have said, what took the turtles so damn long? The Krang, have a power cell. They have a functional portal now. The turtles have been waiting too long. I just wanted to mention something real quick, and this has to do with predictions, because quite a few of you guys, you know who you are, definitely recognize that the turtles would have to visit LH to get more information about the Krang, about the portal, all of that stuff. Like, thumbs up, high 3 or 5, I'm gonna go with high 3. High 3, so for figuring that out and for recognizing that LH was going to be frickin' pissed when the turtles told him that his sacrifice was basically meaningless. So moving on to Leo. I am not impressed with him, actually. I mean, he's done a good job of leading the turtles. He's gotten them out of trouble. So yes, in that sense, he's been doing fairly well. But actually, like, when it comes to being there for his brothers, I am rather disappointed. There's episode 9 when Donnie leaves Mikey, or is stuck with Mikey because Leo doesn't want to take care of him. And because Leo's the leader, whatever he says goes. Episode 12, Donnie's holding the power cell and he's really nervous about going into the water. What does Leo say? You go first, okay? Real morale boosting. This very episode, episode 17, every time Leatherhead tries to attack him, he jumps in the pool and leaves his brothers to take care of things. Raph actually jumps on Leatherhead's back. Where is Leo at that point? As I said, in the pool. Wow, way to be heroic. So I hope all of you agree with me that Leo has been shrugging off the harder parts of being a leader. He's basically leaving whatever work he does not want to do on his brothers, like they're his underlings or something like that. I love the 2K3 Leo. He was always jumping in to protect his brothers from harm. I'll admit, he was way too serious at times. No way do I want an actual 15-year-old to go all, oh my god, my brothers got hurt while I was their leader. I don't want that to happen. Not for this Leo. But I do want this Leo to step up to the plate and actually act like a leader. I actually want his brothers to be all up in his face and tell him and show him how much he needs them, not the other way around. So my last complaint isn't about this show specifically, this episode specifically, but about the series up until now. There has been a severe lack of mental training for these ninjas. The first time we ever saw anything even close to meditation was in this episode, where Master Splinter tells Donnie to just relax and just breathe. But it only lasts 2 seconds because our beloved Donatello is a freaking genius and thinks of his answer in a snap. I'm just saying, let's add some more mental training. If we can push it a little further, spirituality, and just make the training more ninja-y. Alright, finally getting on to episode 18, Cockroach Terminator. I did not like this episode as much as I liked episode 17. The only good thing about it was Raph's character development. Only good thing. Everything else fell flat. Starting off with the Krang wanting to replace a compound and all their valuable resources and technology with a volcano. Yeah, let's just blow up our compound. Let's just destroy it. Because that's a good idea. Instead, I would have preferred hearing more about what the Krang are planning in terms of the portal and the power cell, and just to see that the turtles still care about that. Or they could try to save Kirby, April's dad. He's still imprisoned, but no one seems to care. We haven't cared about that since episode 9. The continuity that I loved in episode 17 was completely gone by episode 18. So moving on to the cockroach. He was such a cute little guy. Seriously. He was all like, woo! When Donnie was all like, he's so special. And I was like, aww! It sucked for that cockroach to be all, I love you, Donnie, to then go all, I want to destroy Raph. I did not want the cockroach to turn into their enemy. Can one thing that the turtles mutate actually stay on their side instead of following them and claiming revenge or something like that? I'm gonna just go to the things that I loved about this episode. Things more like thing. And that was Raph's character development. I mean, who would have known that he could be so afraid to the point where he would much rather bolt in the other direction, or he would freeze instead of being all action-packed. Whoa. That was a transformation I didn't expect to see. April got kidnapped back in episode 10, and Raph was all cool-headed. And I was used to him being all cool-headed. Until now, when we see him frozen with terror. But instead, that made him more endearing. Seeing him have a real fear. He went all, no cockroach, like the beginning of the sentence was kind of terror. You could hear the terror. No 6-foot cockroach is gonna eat my brother. And I was like, the courage. And then he jumps into this freaking awesome motorbike. Lights everything. And I was like, courage plus a kick-ass bike. How can you make Raph any cooler? Newsflash, you can't. Whew, finally, I am done. Those are all my thoughts for episodes 17 and 18. Again, please let me know how you felt about this new format, if you liked it, hated it. If you want me to improve, let me know how. Yeah, that's all I have to say, and I'll talk to you guys again for episode 19.